Living in El Paso, Texas, and being a minister here, we have always it's been something that we've always done as a church, and that I've spent a lot of time, with men and women learning how to do better is ministering to Catholics, knowing how to invite, how to welcome, how to engage people in their Catholicism. Here in El Paso, it's Hispanic, and what I've Hispanic culture is very Catholic, and so 85+% of our population is part Hispanic, and so about the same as would identify or associate with Catholicism. And one thing I've learned, and this is really true of all religious traditions, is that for a lot of people who claim a certain tradition or religious practice, it's not so much about a faith-based belief or practice. It has more to do with a cultural thing, and that's certainly true here. And so, but nonetheless, one thing that I've learned and that we've learned is how to minister to Catholics is really knowing more about Catholicism. And one thing that I was really struck by in this Council of Trent section, and a lot of things I didn't know and really were surprised by, is some of the areas how the author described that we can really find more like-mindedness in than we thought we could, and how the Reformation led to the Counter-Reformation. What it really helped the Catholic Church do in the Council of Trent is sort of like redefine and rework the way that they were practicing to get back from what they would say to how to do things the right way. And a lot of good things did happen in the Catholic Church as a result of that. And ultimately, the Protestants didn't rejoin. And I would agree, obviously we would agree, because some of the things that they weren't willing to change were hills that we should be willing to die on, things concerning justification, things concerning the reliability and the usefulness of Scripture above all things. And so, but one thing that I thought was really interesting, that challenged me, was this whole concept of how they talked about the doctrine of justification by faith. And it's helpful, right, again, for us to know where we can agree in things if we're going to approach Catholics, and then from there we can build on that foundation on why differences and stark differences are important enough to say this is not good, or based on what Scripture says, this might actually call into question the goodness of the grace of God, or really the power of the cross. And so that's why I think it's good to know and helpful to know the things that were similar. And for example, the doctrine of justification by faith is different for Protestants and Catholics, but we both can agree to reject and deny the proposition that a man can be justified before God by his works, which are done either in the strength of human nature or through the teaching of the law apart from the divine grace of Christ. So we can agree that that's not true. But after we talk about that, it's important that we could go into it and say, like, well, to say that justification is not a process and it's good works preparing us to be saved, and then we continue to learn about what it means to be saved, and we can never have assurance, that's a dangerous thing to say, because what it does is it diminishes the power of the cross, and it enhances the role that we play. So even if we can agree with this sentiment that our works apart from the divine grace of Christ are not useful, talking about our works being an integral part, or not only an integral part, but being the key factor in what keeps us in heaven, has led and will continue to lead people into believing that faith, or that salvation, is really just dependent upon their good works.